A Kilgore man charged with intoxication manslaughter does not have a plea offer on the table just yet. Today, 30-year-old Raul Trejo was in Smith County Court where prosecutors said they do not have an offer ready. The state is still waiting on more medical records. Trejo was allegedly driving a car that he swerved and ran into a tree, killing his passenger. Also in court today, 30-year-old Sergio Molina of Tyler pleaded guilty to charges of evading arrest with a vehicle and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. In August of last year, Molina was trying to get away from police when authorities say he crashed into another vehicle, injuring the driver. He was sentenced today to 8 years in prison.